Hi there, welcome to the video. My name is Marcus, and I blow glass. And today, we're going to be doing part 3 of how to make a bouquet cup. In part 2, we went over how to convert one of our solid implosions into a hollow section for half of the cup. So if you're interested in that, pop over to that video. But without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome to the studio. This is the section that we'll be working with today. And if you want to see me make it, here's a link to the video. Now, if you watched part 2, you're probably familiar with a lot of what we're going to do in this video. But it's good to get another look at things and kind of reframe some of the techniques that we use. So we'll start by removing the color backing that's left over from our implosion. I will heat up the surface of the glass that I want to remove and whisk a rod across it, pulling to the center to get a nice termination. We only want to heat up the surface of the glass, that way we don't warp the image underneath. And we can use some tweezers to pull off the last remaining bit. You want to remove as much of this glass as possible without destroying the image that you've created, and this will make blowing out the glass easier later on. I'll use the end of a graphite rod to push that down, just because I don't want to boil the colored glass by overcooking it. And now I'll get my striking china white, but any opaque color will do. And I'm just going to place a little dot right over top of the termination. So we can cook that in really nice, flatten it down using some graphite, and you can even use a hand paddle to push it in farther. Next, I can prepare the tube that I will use to seal onto the outside. So I've popped a hole, and using my jacks to open up the lip. This tube is on a point, and I'd like it to be on a blow tube, just so that I have a little bit better control of it. I'll use one arm of my jacks to flare open the blow tube, and I will make my straight seal. Nice and hot, in the flame, and then rotating evenly and controlling with my right side. These straight seals can take a long time to get used to, so don't get discouraged if it takes you a while. I'd like to increase the diameter of this tube a little bit, so I'm heating up the sidewall and adding some more air. I'm going to want to pop a hole in the end. I like to give a hard puff, just one, and then using a rod, I will, in the flame, push it in and out of that thin glass area, and this is called a proto-pop. I'm going to pre-warm my jacks and get the sidewall of my tube nice and hot and begin to spin it open. I like to rest the jacks on the upper edge of the tube and keep the bottom of the tube inside of the flame. And this keeps some heat in the piece while I'm flaring it open. But make sure that you're adding beeswax throughout the process. And if you don't have jacks, you can do the same thing using a graphite rod. I'm going to put most of my heat into my implosion, and like any other tube seal, heat up the lip of the tube that I'm going to connect. Make sure they're both really hot and connect them in the flame, pushing a little bit to increase the thickness of the glass. Now I want to put a whole bunch of heat into this and allow that glass to start to condense. I've switched my right hand to a underhand position, which will make it easier for me to bring it up to my mouth and add air. Just like this. Now my goal with this seal is to keep the tube as thick as possible while adding it to this puck, because when I go to blow out this implosion, it's going to be harder to heat up the thick glass at the end of the tube than it will be to heat up that tube behind it. So having nice thick glass will make the whole process easier. Really trying to keep the piece centered using my right hand as the guiding hand. And now I will go and heat up a thin band of glass on my left hand tube so that I can start my flame cut. I'm going to add air to start to make this tube thinner, and then heat up the band again, get it quite hot, and blow it out very thin. Again, I will use an underhand position on the side of the tube that I would like to add air into. So blowing hard, multiple puffs, and pulling. And now I can go ahead and heat up a band of glass, pull a little bit, and twist and kind of resist as I'm twisting. Now I'm going to heat up this glass that I have separated, using centrifugal force to make sure that this thin glass doesn't flop down onto the lens of my implosion. The faster you spin, the wider it'll get. Grabbing a rod of clear and removing the lip. Heating up the glass just ahead of what I want to remove. And sometimes I use a back and forth flashing method, just like this, before sort of scooping off the glass that I've warmed up. You can also use tweezers for this if you don't have extra clear glass laying around. Hey guys, it's me again. Sorry to interrupt. I hope you're enjoying the video. I think it's going pretty well. A couple little mishaps, but you know, we're blowing glass, so it won't be perfect. Anyways, I figured I'd drop in here and give a little note from our sponsor. It's me. I take the time to try and make these videos look as good as I can, edit them down and all that good stuff for you. So I figured, why not start a Patreon? It's a way that you can show your support for the channel if you're interested. You can also sign up for free. I'll be doing giveaways on there, including the cup that I'm making right here in this video. So make sure you're signed up, and if you want to support, it means the world. All of the money that I make on the Patreon, which is very little, goes right back into the channel for video equipment or editing stuff. That kind of stuff. Anyways, I also got a Facebook and a Instagram if you want to see what I'm up to behind the scenes. And that's kind of it. We'll get back to blowing glass. All right, thanks. I decided to get a drink of water. It's always important to stay hydrated. And we're back at it. So now I want to focus all of my heat into the center or the thickest part of this implosion, while trying to avoid heating up too much of the sidewall, which is thinner and will move a lot quicker. So this is a very time-consuming process, and I've edited it down to be much faster than it is. If you really want to get something hot, you can focus the heat on the candles. That's the really bright part of the torch, right before the blue. And in this case, I'm going to rotate the glass on my marver or graphite and even it up a little bit. Now, as with part 2 of this demo, as the piece starts to get hot, you'll see me using the marver to take heat away from the sidewall of the piece. Remember, every time you bring your hot glass onto the graphite, you're sucking heat out of the piece. And this can make it easier to control how much that sidewall will move on you, while keeping the tip of the glass very hot. So putting all of the heat into the tip of the piece. You can blow air into the piece while rotating it on the marver, or graphite. And sometimes you'll see me blow air into it while it's in the flame. But I'm always looking at it right afterwards and never blowing too much, because I need to see what's going on and I don't want to blow out the sidewalls, so just a little bit at a time. Because you can always blow more, but you can't take it back. And the thicker that you leave this implosion, the more realistic it will look. And that's the finished piece. It's still pretty hot. So now we'll take our first section and prepare it to be attached to the section that you guys just saw. Now I've noticed some seam lines inside of the glass, and I'm going to remove them by heating up the glass on the tube and quickly skimming off the surface layer using a rod. You have to be very careful doing this move because you can easily go right through the sidewall of the tube. So I only want to heat up just the surface of the tube and then quickly remove it where I see any scuzz, scratches, or the seam. This step is definitely optional. Next, I'll do a cold seal. So I will heat up a punty or a handle and attach it kinda cool onto the tip of this piece with the intention of breaking it off later. And basically to do a cold seal, you want to get it pink, bring it out of the flame, wait a second or two, and then attach it to the surface of a cooler object of glass. And this can take a while to get used to, so don't get discouraged if you mess it up. Oh, there goes my cold seal. So that happened because it wasn't quite hot enough when I put it onto the tip. So we want to get it hotter this time and then attach it. Looks like I'm a little bit out of practice. Alright, so going back in and heating up a nice thin band of glass right where we decided to take off all those scuzz marks, or the white from the seal. And my intent here is to thicken up this glass a bit and make it a bit more even, because I've removed some parts and not other parts. So I want to get it hot enough that the whole thing flows and becomes more homogeneous before beginning my next step. I'm using an overhand-underhand method because I know that I want to add air to the piece. So I'll be adding air to my right hand because it's the hand that's holding underneath the glass. Taking a look and making sure that I'm happy with how even the sidewall looks. And now I'll begin to disconnect the parts of this glass that I don't need. So I'm heating up a thin band of glass and beginning to pull. Letting the glass get thin and cool, and then going back in and pulling some more. I do this multiple times until the glass is very thin. And then, when I'm ready, I disconnect my handle and pop it on the end and touch it a few times inside the flame to do another proto pop. When the glass is very thin like this and you use an oxidizing flame, it's easy to pop open the end. But it does take a lot of practice, so maybe practice on a tube that doesn't have a flower on it. Next, I'll do the same move with the implosion that we were working on earlier. But we're going to save that for the next demo. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you're subscribed so that you can see more glass content. I'll be making lots more videos in the future, including part 4 and 5 of this one. See you in the next one.